guys, I hope you are having a very great evening. So today we'll be discussing the low-level design of Zerodha. So let me just quickly talk about what all things are going to be there and how we are going to talk about it, and then we'll get to the coding part. So first of all, can you quickly confirm that you're able to hear me, see me properly, all good for the setup? Yeah, awesome. So we are going to start now. Let me just quickly tell you that what all things we're going to do. We are going to first quickly talk about what is Zerodha, what does it actually do. Then we'll talk about the requirements that we will be actually writing the code for today. Then after that, we will draw the UML diagram, that is the class diagram, because in a real LAD interview, what you have to do, you have to first draw the class diagram, show that how you're going to structure your classes, how they are going to connect, and then we are going to start writing the code. So what we are going to do is we are going to write a compilable code. So I have not written a single word of code till now. We are going to start from scratch. We are going to make sure that it compiles and we are going to place an order. Okay, so what we are going to, I will highly appreciate it that in the comments that we discuss about the row level design that we are doing today, because it's a live chat, I'm going to be reading your comments. So let's stick to the topic that we are discussing today. Okay, so let's quickly talk about what is Zerodha. So usually, okay, so we are over here, we are a customer, and there are some exchanges like NSE, BSE, right? So when we want to buy and sell some orders, what we do is that we deal with stock brokers in between. So here there are some brokers, and we tell these brokers that this is what we want to buy or this is what we want to sell, and the brokers take care of this. So Zerodha or other companies like Upstocks and like any other stockbroker company, so this is their role. So this is what they do. Okay, I understand that a lot of us might not know that what exactly Zerodha looks like. So let's quickly talk a bit about how it looks like when we start doing it. Okay, Divyani is saying that she can't hear me. Can one of you quickly confirm that you are able to hear and see me properly, just to be double sure? Okay, it could be a problem on her side. So so let me just talk about how Zerodha looks when you open the app. So as soon as you open it, like there might be some of your favorite stocks that you want to deal with, right? So there is something called watch list. So this is basically there are some stocks that are your favorite stocks. So you can add it to a particular list, like how we have like list of favorites, right? Like that. Or where you want to basically monitor a few stocks. So you can name them anything. Suppose you are naming one list as A, B, C, D, E, F, and you can tell that okay, these are the stocks that I want to see, and these are the stocks that I want to see. Now you might be buying or selling some stocks, right? So you obviously have to have some funds or basically money. So you add some money or some funds to your account to buy stocks. Okay. Then when you buy some stocks, you have them with you, right? So those are your holdings. So basically all the stocks that you have bought are going to be in your portfolio. Okay, so these are all the technical terms. If you understand this much, you'll be able to understand the system. So basically what we are doing is when we open, we first see watch list. So it's basically a list of stocks. Then secondly, we have some funds, that is money to buy the stocks. And when we buy the stocks, we have them in our holdings. Basically, we can see all the stocks that we have in our portfolio. I hope you have understood this much. Okay. Now what we are going to do is we are going to look at the requirements that we are going to be fulfilling today. Now, the main role of stockbroker is what? Buy and sell stocks, right? So that is the main thing that we are going to do today. We are going to design a system for buy and selling stocks. Now, how do we really buy and sell stocks in Zerodha? When you open Zerodha, you will see that each stock, how is it performing right now? So there's something called market depth. So basically, what like there are some people who are trying to buy stocks, who are trying to sell stocks. So at what price are they trying to sell or buy the stock, and how much do they want to buy or sell, right? So the price and the quantity. So you can see that okay, price, quantity, and which stock we are talking about, obviously, right? So you can see that how is market performing, what are we actually going to do. Okay, so when you open Zerodha, you will be able to see how are the stocks doing, then you will be able to buy or sell stocks. Okay, awesome. So now what we are going to do is that when we buy or sell stocks, we have to make certain choices. First choice will be what? That we are obviously buying or selling, right? Now there are different ways to buy and sell stock. So there are various options. If you are into stocks, you will be able to understand this. But if you are not, it's okay. It's not a very important term to understand over here. Let me just give you a brief about it. So there's something called market value and there's something called limit value. There are actually more types of transactions that can happen, but today we are going to be talking about this, and we are going to make our structure such that our code is extendable, right? We are going to write code such that tomorrow, if we want to add more features, we can easily write this. So what does market order, limit order actually mean? So there is some market price of every order, right? So if I decide that I am going to buy or sell the stock at whatever current market price is, I'm going to say it is a market value. It's a market order. But when I say that, you know what, no, I want to buy a stock at a particular price only. Right now, suppose the stock value is 100, and I say that, okay, when it becomes 98, only then I'm going to buy it. Or suppose it is 100 right now, and only when it becomes 102, I'm going to sell it, right? So in these cases, what happens? We can just tell our stockbroker that, you know what, this is the limit price. Once the stock reaches this price, you just sell or buy it. Simple stuff, right? So these are different types of transactions that we can do. One is buy sell, second is market value, limit value. Now, market order, limit order. Then the third thing is that we would be making our transactions with NSE or BSE, right? So these are the three things that we will take care of. Now let's try to draw the class diagram and see that, you know, how our order is going to get placed. We are going to actually take the classes and try to follow all the solid principles. So low level design is what? We have to follow all the OOPS principles. We have to follow all the so okay. So Ayush is asking NSE is what? So basically NSE BSE is like stock exchanges, national stock exchanges. So that is basically stock exchange is going to take care of the entire buying and the selling. So stockbroker is basically a middleman between you and stock exchange. Stock exchange is where the buying and the selling happens. Okay, so don't worry about it. Okay, so let's try to get to the class diagram now. Guys, this much I've understood. We have talked about requirements that what are we are going to do. Now we are going to get to the class diagram part. Okay. Then after this, we will be coming to what? We will be coming to the writing code part. We will actually convert this diagram into into our code. So you should be able to understand this class diagram properly. Okay. Awesome. So the first thing that I'm going to do is when our front end is going to send a request, right? So suppose, sorry about that. Okay. So if our front end is sending a request, it should send a request to somewhere, right? Our front end is going to do what? It is going to say place order. So this user is trying to make the order and it is going to tell that, okay, this is the transaction type. It is buy or sell. This is the order type. It is market or limit, or this is exchange type. This is NSE or BSE, right? So let's say that there is a class order where the user has populated all the diagram, all the values, and this is the like API that our front end is sending. Okay, so which class is going to take care of this? Let me just call that class as order manager. So we have an order manager that is, so this is the first place where our API is going to hit. Let me just, you know, write it in a better way. It looks very shabby. So we have an order manager. So what is the role of this? So the place order, basically the API that our front end is going to call, it is going to send the user ID and it is going to send all the order details, right? So this is the first place where our order is going to get hit. Okay. Now, this much is fine. Now what happens when our request gets set over here that you have to place an order? What happens is that we have to first check that the user can make this order or not, right? So user might, suppose I'm saying that I want to buy 10 stocks, but I don't have any money. So obviously, as a broker, it is my responsibility to make sure that you have the money to buy or to sell, you have the stocks, right? That is the first thing, right? So what am I going to do is I am going to have another class over here whose sole responsibility is going to be to order the to validate the order. So I'm going to call it order validator. Does it make sense? Okay. So okay, guys, when we make a UML diagram, when I make a box like this actually means every class. So this is the name of the class. All the variables I'm going to write in the middle section and all the functions I'm going to write over here. Obviously, we can't write all the functions, but the important ones, I'm going to write all the important variables I'm going to mention. Okay, so we have to follow the principles, the solid principles, right? So we have to talk about what? We have to talk about, oh, okay, can't see that. Okay, we have to follow solid principles. So we have to make sure that every class has like one responsibility only, right? So what is the responsibility of this class order validator? Its responsibility is just to validate the order that is coming. Okay, so I am going to call it validate order, and so again I'm going to pass the user ID to it, and I'm going to pass the order. Now, what is the, okay, first of all, I said that the order should have all the details. So let me just quickly make the class order also so that later we don't have any confusion. Now, the order class will have what all things? The order class will have transaction type. It will have order type. Basically, transaction type is buy or sell. Order type is like market limit, like that. Then the exchange value, that is basically NSE, BSE, like that. Right. So there are like a bunch of things like what is the quantity, what is the price. Like order is a very, very detailed thing. What is the time and all those stuff, right? So I can't write everything, but there's an order class over here. This is obviously very, very important. So order manager can access the order, but order can obviously not access the order manager, right? Now we are saying that order manager is doing what? It is giving the job of validating the order, basically checking whether the order is possible or not. Basically, the user has money or not to buy the stocks, whether the user has the stocks to sell the stocks, right? So this is what order validator is doing. So what am I going to do is I am going to create order validator only if order manager is there, right? So this is called a composition relationship. Basically, order manager will have an instance of order validator, but order validator cannot exist without order manager. So when I'm going to create order manager itself, I'm going to create order validator. So this is called a composition relationship. When you are going to make class diagrams, you should be able to understand. So if this is class A, this is class B, you usually say it as that A has an instance of B and B cannot exist without A. Okay, so I'm going to fill this square over here, and there is going to be a what? There is going to be a member over here called order validator. Okay, now this guy's job is to validate the order. Now in order to do that, obviously it should have access of the user information. Right now, if it doesn't have access to the user information, it obviously will not be able to validate, right? So what am I going to do that for that is that there's going to be a system that will have all the users stored, right? So say there is a system which has a list of users. So basically, let's say there are some user IDs and we have a map of ID and user. Okay. So there's a system where we are storing everything. So we will obviously have a system and we'll have everything, right? So what we can do is we can go like get user info from over here. So plus means that it's public and minus means that it's private. So get user info. So I'm going to send the ID and I'm going to get the user information. So order validator is going to go to the system with the ID and it is going to say that give me all the users information. I want to validate whether this order is possible or not. Understood? Okay. Now what we are going to do is that, okay, what have we done till now? First, our request came over here to the order manager. Now, how did the request come? There was a user ID, there was all the order information. Now, first we are trying to validate the order. We are going to see whether the user has enough money or the stocks. So for that, user needs, the order validator class needs users information, right? So what we need is, it goes to the system, shows the ID and gets back the response. So now it has the user ka information with it. Okay. So since I have made the user class over here, let me just quickly make that also over here. I'm not sure. Okay, let me just move myself a bit down so that you can see me properly. Okay, I'm moving over here. Okay, so user will have what all information. Usually, obviously, when we register on an app, there are a bunch of information that you're going to take, like our date of birth, and suppose it is necessary to do KYC and all. Obviously, I'm not going to talk about all that. Even in an interview, you should talk about relevant things to the to what feature you're going to deliver. Here, we are talking about buy and sell. So, what all information of user we need to have? So, funds is one thing. And suppose we were also storing like portfolio and watch list. So as I said in the starting, that we are not going to be dealing with portfolio and watch list today. We are only going to be dealing with user and its funds. So when we start writing the class also, I'm not going to give this so much information. There is just going to be a user with user ID. This is just for user purposes. Like we are not going to really go into the details of this. Okay. Now what we are going to do is our order validator knows the user's information. Now it is going to validate whether it is possible to do the order or not, and then it is going to return a response to the order manager. Now what happens? Order manager knows that the transaction is possible or not, whether we can go ahead with the order or not. It has validated. Okay. Now order manager needs to make sure that the request is sent to the exchange. Now suppose there's the exchange over here, a small exchange. Can you see that? Yeah, you can see the exchange. Now this is basically NSE, BSC and all. Okay. So we need to talk to this exchange somehow. Now we are going to do what? We are going to have a class, a separate class whose sole responsibility is going to be what? To talk to this exchange. So I am going to make a class over here and I'm going to call it exchange connector. So this is the exchange connector class. Very bad handwriting. Sorry, guys. Okay. So this is the exchange connector. Sorry about the handwriting, guys. Don't worry about it. Okay. And its sole responsibility is to talk to the exchange. Okay. Now the interesting point over here is that exchange connector, we are going to talk to exchange all the time. Whenever we want any stocks information, whenever we are going to place an order, we are going to be talking to exchange so much. And it is only this one class that is going to be taking care of this exchange. Now, we should apply one design pattern over here. And I want one of you guys to quickly tell me in the comments that, what design pattern should we follow. Uh, See, whenever we have like something like config manager or logger, we use a design pattern. Remember, what do we want? There should be only one instance of the class. We have sort of a similar need over here. When we talk to Exchange, we want that only one instance of the class should be created. Okay. Exactly, Rajat. Very good. So we will be using singleton over here. Very good, Francis. I feel so good that you guys are actually hearing and you guys are interested. So we are going to make sure that exchange connector is only singleton. But you should have a bunch of questions around this, that why singleton? And I am expecting a few things that I thought of while designing this. Let me just talk about them. So here now exchange can also be NSE BSC. So we could also design a system such that there are two exchange connectors. One is going to talk to NSE, one is going to talk to BSC. So for those for whom singleton is not clear, it's basically a design pattern. I have an entire series on design patterns on my channel, but it's okay if you don't know it yet. You can go watch it after the video also. Now what we are going to do is we are going to implement this entire thing. We are going to write the code so it will be clear eventually. Okay. So we are going to make sure that the exchange connector is singleton. Basically, there is going to be only one instance of the exchange connector. Every time the order happens, we are not going to keep creating another exchange connector. Okay. So there is going to be only one main function, which is going to be get exchange connector ka basically instance. So whatever one instance was there, you give me that. And another thing is that place the order to exchange. So basically whatever order we have to place, we have to tell the exchange connector that what, send this to the exchange. So have you understood this much? Let me just quickly revise it. Okay. Order manager got the request that we have to place order. It checked with the order validator. Can we actually go ahead with this or not? So order validated needed users information. It went to the system, got the users information, validated it. Only if it said yes that we can go ahead. Now our order manager needs to send the information ahead to the exchange connector to the exchange. I said that there should be only one instance of exchange connector, so we are going to make it single. Now, the order manager's role is what? Like validator's role was to validate the order. What is the role of manager? It is just to manage the things. So there should be one more middle person over here, one more class whose job will be to execute the order. So I'm going to call it order executioner. Okay. So basically what is going to happen is order manager is going to send the request to order executioner. Order executioner will send the request to exchange connector. Exchange connector will send the request to exchange. Understood? Now let's also talk about, see how validator was a composition relationship with order manager. Even order executioner should also be a composition relationship. Now I need you to I need you to tell me in the comments that why it will be a composition relationship. Okay, because I already talked about why validator will be a composition relationship. You need to tell me this. Okay, so I am over here. I am adding this as well. So basically, executioner can obviously not exist without the manager. When we create the manager, we are going to create the executioner. And these are important things, because when we are going to create the order manager, when we are going to construct it, we are going to construct the executioner at that time. Okay, so that is why this is very important. And see, when I put arrows, again, it is very important. Order executioner can basically access or talk to exchange connector, but exchange connector cannot talk back, right? But it is going to send the response back. It is going to send some, basically we're going to have a callback. It is going to tell that, okay, has the order passed or not, to exchange, was the order successful or not. So basically here I'm going to place order again. Right now, see, I am keeping it very simple. Obviously, we cannot implement the entire thing. But when we think about it really, order executioner will also do, like if we have a DB class, then what happens when we send it to an order executioner? Order executioner is going to return back that, okay, whether the order was successful or not. If the order was successful, this order executioner is going to do what? It is going to save it somewhere that, okay, the order was successful, not successful. It is going to update the DB, it is going to update all the classes, right? For now, we are not going to do all that. For now, we are just treating it like a middle person, and we are going to tell the order executioner that send the data to the exchange connector. Have you guys understood this much, guys? So Rajat is saying, because every order manager has to exist with executioner for executing the order. Very good, Rajat. Uh, Also, just a quick reminder, if you guys are liking the video, just send it to your friends and ask them to join, because we are yet to write the entire code and they might really enjoy this. Okay, so thank you so much. Now, there were things like watch list and portfolio that we talked about. Let me just quickly also talk about them. Like, we are not going to be writing the code for them, but let's just quickly cover them. So here, I said there is an order class, right? So we also obviously have a stock class. Now, again, stock also has a lot of information, but there is some metadata that is more important than the rest of the data. So we are going to be talking about that metadata first. So first is that, what is its name, what is the price, what is the current market price, and which exchange it belongs to, NSE or BSE, like that. So these three is the information that we are going to have of the stock. Let me just write it properly, because we are going to be referring to the diagram a lot. So name, price, and exchange. Okay. And so these are the important things in the stock. Now, in this stock, obviously, there is some market data. So there is going to be another class. We are not going to be implementing all this. Whatever we were implementing, that I have discussed in detail. This I'm quickly just talking that, if we were also dealing with the watch list and portfolio, how would we deal with that? So this is market data. So there is a map over here. We will have, like, these are the stocks. So these are the IDs, and this is the current value of the market data. So what this market data would actually do is, it would go to the executioner. It would exchange connector, and it would go to the exchange and get all the market data values. Okay, so for now, I don't want it to look so dirty, and also I'm not saying that, but market data's responsibility is going to keep all the latest market information. Basically, what are the current prices of the stock? That is the responsibility of this class. Whenever we make a new class, our first question should be, what is the responsibility of this one particular class? Is it following the solid principles or not? So here the responsibility of this class is to store all the latest information of the stocks. Okay. Now obviously the stock is, sorry. So now obviously the stock class is going to talk to market data, because stock price also needs to be updated, right? Now again, okay, now let me just quickly tell you a bit about transactions also. Okay, when we talked about user, I already told you about portfolio and watch list, right? Let me quickly tell you about transactions. Now, suppose you put an order that I want to sell 100 stocks. Okay. Now, it is not necessary that all the 100 stocks go to one particular person. It is possible that your 100 stocks might get divided into multiple transactions. It means that, what exchange might do, it might sell your 70 stocks to one user and 30 stocks to another user. So basically, every order can have multiple transactions also. So we are not going to drill down to that much detail, but let me, so that it is clear, and tomorrow, you guys don't comment that, oh, you don't even know this much. Let me just put it over here that there are transactions also. And again, transactions will have a lot of information that, what time the transaction happened, what is the second user, two users information, how much data was sent and not sent, how much stocks were sent, at what price was it sent, like, so basically quantity, price, everything. So order will have like a list of transactions. It is made up of multiple transactions. But we will not be talking about transactions today at all. We will be talking about placing an order, basically placing a buy and the sell order. Okay, guys, after this, I think I have talked about the class diagram. We are going to start writing the code now. Every class we are going to write this, we are going to convert this into a code, make it compilable. So I need to make sure that you have understood the gist of it, that what exactly we are doing today. If you have any questions, this is the time to ask me. Are we consume are we consuming stock data at order executioner class or execution connector? I said order executioner by mistake. Obviously, market data needs to get the information from exchange. So it needs to get the information from exchange connector. I said executioner by mistake. I think I'm sorry about that. And thank you so much for making sure. Ayush, what should I tell again? What have you not understood? Just let me know. I will repeat that part. Before starting writing the code, quick recap so that you can understand properly and we have no doubts at all. Let me just make myself small over here. Okay, okay, great. Let's just quickly talk about this. So over here, what are things are happening? First, we get the request. Okay. Huh. So this is where a request comes to the order manager. It's so now the request is what? This is the user ID. This is the order. You have to place this order. Okay. It has all the information. The order has all the information, like whether it is buy or sell. It is market order, limit order. What is the exchange? Well, basically NSE, PSE. At what price do we want to sell and how much we want to sell or buy, whatever. Okay. Everything is done. Now what is going to happen is first thing order manager needs to do is going to see whether the order is possible or not. It goes to the order validator. It checks, it says that validate my order. Now to validate, obviously it needs all the user information, like how much funds it has, how much stocks it has, so the portfolio funds, everything. So it goes to the system, says that give me the user information. So it has like get user info class, it passes the ID, it gets the user information, checks that okay it is possible or not, and it is going to tell to the order manager whether it is possible or not. Then after that, it is going to, if it is possible to go ahead, it is going to go to order executioner, which is going to go to the exchange connector. Now I said that there should be only one instance of the execution of the exchange connector because we need only one instance that talks to exchange. It is almost like logger or config manager is the example that I gave. Okay, so this is one design pattern that we are going to implement today, the singleton pattern. Okay, we are going to make sure that there is only one instance. Now, this is what we are going to be writing code for. Other than this, obviously, there is going to be a stock with some metadata. We are not going to deal with the rest of the data. There is also market data, but we are not going to be talking about this. Market data has like all the latest prices of all the stocks. It is going to be talking to exchange connector and getting the latest prices from the exchange. Okay. I hope this much is clear. Let's finally get to the code part. Okay. I am keeping this aside. So we are done discussing this. Before we go ahead with the code, I need you to take 2 minutes and to bear with me to really thank the sponsor of the video because without them, obviously, I cannot go ahead with this, right? So let me just quickly thank the sponsor of the video. So thank you, Coding Ninja. So they are basically they are conducting 100% scholarship test. So there is no coding test happening. It's just a 30-minute, 30 aptitude-based MCQs and you have a 2 day window to attempt it. There's no negative marking also, like there are 2 days and from that you have to find out your time that what works out best for you and then you have to take the test and it is aptitude based. And if you get this you could get up to 100%. If you don't get 100% also you'll get some really good scholarships. So you can see the scholarship you can get over here. The link is in the description. You can check it out and they have very good placement record. They have placed so many students at this. So you can register for this. Again, guys, the link is in the description. Do check it out. They offer these many courses and you will get scholarship on these courses. So, and it is just an aptitude test, right? So even if like you are chilling and like you are over here, you could just check out the aptitude test and you can see. Okay. Uh, Now uh, let's move on to the code part. We'll also thank the sponsors once more later, but that will be the end. Let's get to the code part, the interesting part. Okay, so as you can see, there are literally no files right now. I'm going to be starting to write the code from scratch. Okay, the first file that I'm going to create, probably some common things that I'm going to store. So I'm going to call it common.hpp. So let's start writing the code finally. I have also put up the diagram over here so that you can have a look at it and you can refer it. Okay, sorry about that. I wanted to okay, I wanted to refer to the diagram, so I am just making sure that you can see the diagram. Okay, let me just keep it very clear so that you can see it properly. And when we are coding, you can actually see the entire diagram and you can see that how we are converting this into code one by one. Okay, we are going to be actually dealing with these classes itself. So I want you to see it properly. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are first going to write some common code. Guys, quickly confirm you're able to see the code as I'm typing it. Are you able to see me? Are you able to see everything? Because there's obviously a different setup, so I needed to confirm quickly. Okay. Can one of you quickly confirm? I'm waiting for the confirmation. Okay. In common.hpp, we are going to write the. Okay. Thank you, Rajat. Thank you, Francis. Okay. So we are going to start writing the common code. Here we are going to write hash include iostream. Yeah, we are starting from that level using namespace std. Okay. Now we are going to write some common enums that we are going to need, and it is always a good practice to write enums in LLD interviews. So your interviewer will also be impressed, and I hope you will also be impressed. So first thing that we are going to need is the transaction type. So what can be the transaction type? One is buy and one is sell, right? Can you see the code properly, right? Is it big and clear enough? Just let me know. Okay, after the transaction type, another enum that we are going to have is order type. Guys, I need you to think of the possible enums that we are going to need, and I need you to tell me the comments, and let's see who else can think of all the enums that we are going to need. Okay, order type we are dealing with two, market and limit, as we had discussed. There can be other types also. There is something called stop loss and GTT and all that. We are not dealing with that. We are keeping it very simple. Basically, types of orders. Okay, we're going to keep it very simple. Then we are also going to need the exchange values because the exchange can be NSC or BSC, right? Then what else do we need? I think we need the order status, right? So let's just write order status as well. See, order status, we are not going to be updating the status, but it is good to, mention it to your interviewer that these are the possible statuses that our order can have. So they can also be partially done. You remember orders can be divided into transactions. So transactions, like it is possible that out of 100, your 40 stocks have been sold, but 60 are not sold. So I'm going to put that under partially done. I'm going to also have a done state, and I'm also going to have a cancel state, right? Does this mean, and is this understood? Okay, so Ayush is asking why enum class. So enum class is a C++ 11 thing. It is almost like enum, but it is a bit different. We are not like I don't want to discuss it right now because we have a lot for discussion, but we can just read about it. Enum versus enum class is a C++ thing, very similar, so you should not be confused. Okay, okay. So we are done with the common things that we are going to need. The next thing that I think we should be talking about is the stock. Okay, so I don't think you can see the creating the new class window because it is a different window, but just bear with me. I'm creating a new file over here. So I've created a new file stock.hpp. Okay. Yep. So stock.hpp, we are going to, you can see the diagram, right? Okay, I can see that you can see in the diagram and the top left corner. So what all information we had to store in the stock, we are going to create a class for that. So obviously I need to include all the common things. Then I'm going to create a class for stock and I'm going to store only the metadata, right? And the metadata will have like what exchange. See, it is convenient when we use enum classes like this. See, enum now has this, so we can store the exchange over here. Then what else we can store? We obviously need the name and we need the price. So price is going to be what? It is going to be double. Okay. Once we are done with all this, let me just quickly make a constructor also. So in the constructor, I need to pass the values. So first thing, let's first pass the name. Then I'm going to pass the price. Then I'm going to pass the exchange value. Okay, and I'm going to initialize all of this. I'm going to be using initializer list to initialize. So, okay, let me just, these are parameters, right? So I'm going to put a P in front so that it is clear to you that what am I talking about. So this is parameter. So I'm going to name it like this. Now in the initializer list, what am I doing is that for this name, assign the value of p name into name, assign the value of p price into price, okay, like that. And similarly into exchange, we will assign p exchange. Okay, so this is how initializer list works, and this is our constructor. Now, other than the constructors, I guess we will need the getters over here, but we can write those later. So we will get back to this. Stock is our basic unit, right? Other than stock, what is the basic unit? It is order, right? What are the things that we are going to be using the most? Obviously, order, that is what we are creating, right? We need all the information. So let us make an order class also. Again, over here, I'm going to include the common thing. So if I need to like output or anything, iStream and everything is going to be in common. So it's very easy to work like that. In the order class, now guys, as I start writing the classes, you need to think about what are member variables are we going to have, and what are the functions that we are going to have. Refer to the diagram that is there in the bottom. Okay, so in the order class, what all do we need to have? We obviously need to have the transaction type, right? So I'm going to call it TXN type. Then I obviously need to have the order type. So transaction type was again what buy sell. Order type is what? It is market and limit. Then again we need the quantity. So and first let's add the price. Then I'm going to add the quantity. Then obviously, okay, sorry. Then obviously we need the quantity, price. What else do we need? Obviously there's going to be a stock for which we are going to be creating the order, right? So we need to obviously access the stock over here, right? See, that's how you understand which is the smallmost identity, the smallmost class. It is stock. We are going to be dealing with stocks. Then there is an order of a stock. So there is a order is of a stock, right? So there is a again a relation over here. So we have a stock. Okay, so we are talking about the quantity, price, and everything. Obviously, there's also going to be a bunch of other stuff that we are not going to be talking about, like transactions. So there can be like a vector of transactions that we are not covering today. Then there will be status, which will actually be of the type order type that we had taken in our enum. In our common, it was there. Then there will also be a time at which this happens. Again, we are not going to be talking about this. Have you understood this much? Okay. Exchange, guys, can be at stock level also, but I think, okay, we can add exchange also over here. So let's just write exchange as well. Okay. Now, obviously, we need to have a constructor for this also. It will be very similar to the stock one. Let me just pass all the values in the initializer list and create the constructor quickly. Okay. So what are the things do I need to pass? Transaction type. Just keep thinking about these things, guys, while I am typing, because obviously seeing is much easier than typing, right? So just think about, if I'm missing something, let me know in the comments. And why are we relating the classes such that stock is a part of a class, and which is the stock is part of a order, and which is the next class that we should be talking about. Just have that in mind. Okay. Let me just quickly add the constructor. So order type, and then after order type there is of course price. Okay, sorry, p price, then P quantity, then P stock, okay, and P exchange. How useful are you guys finding this video? I hope you're getting to learn a lot. I'm going to assign the values in the transaction list. So into the transaction type, I'm going to assign the parameter P transaction type. Then into the order type, I am going to assign P order type, right? Then into the price, I am going to assign P price. So basically, I don't have to write any setters over here. I'm going to make my life very easy for the future by adding these things. Okay, so quantity, P quantity, then stock, I am adding P stock, and exchange. So in exchange, I am adding P exchange. Okay. Great. So we have made our initializer list. I hope the constructor is clear. Great. Awesome. Guys, so we are done with this talk, we are done with order. So obviously there also has to be a user. So let's create the user class now. So I am going to call it user.hpp. Now what all the things do user have? Obviously it has a bunch of data like, DOB and all that. We don't need all of that. When did the user join the application and all of that, but we are not going to be talking about that. What are the useful stuff that we are going to have? Let me know in the comments. Also, in front of in every HPP, it is better to add pragma once. Now, why do we add pragma once, guys? Tell me in the comments. Why do we add this? Why am I adding this everywhere? Usually, it should get added by itself. But since that did not happen, let me just quickly add it so that we don't have any errors. I want the code to compile in months. Do you think I'll be able to compile this in months? Considering I'm making so many mistakes, let's see if I'll be able to do this. Setter and getter, guys, as we need, we are going to keep adding. For now, to make it quick, I'm avoiding right now. Let's just get to the user class, okay? Adding pragma once. So whoever is most active is going to be our user that we are going to use in our example. So there is a class user. Okay. Now what do we need in the user? We definitely need an ID. So we there usually name and ID should be different, but here I'm going to use the name as the ID itself to make things simpler. And in an interview also you can do such things. It's just that you have to communicate with your interviewer that right now I'm considering name as ID to keep it faster. Then we are still talking about the private members over here. So there will also be funds, there will also be watch list, there will also be portfolio. We had talked about this. You can still see in the diagram, I'm hoping, but we will not be covering those things today. Okay, so in the public section, I need to have one thing which is basically get user info or anything like that. But right now, I'm just going to have a constructor. So basically, I'm going to create a new user by this user ID. So again, same by initializer list, I'm doing the same thing. So what am I doing? In this user ID, I am just setting my user ID. Has one of you told me that why have I added Pragma once? I am looking for answers, guys. None of you answered, right? Why am I adding Pragma once? I want one of you to answer that. Okay, so we are done with user also. So what are the classes we have made till now? We have made the first one that we made was stock, then we made order, then we made user. Which is the next class that we should write? Deepak is saying for one time compile. What does that mean? Tell me in detail. Why have I added Pragma once? Okay, I need you to tell me. After this, user is going to be in what? It is going to be in a system. So let's add the system also. You can see the diagram, right? So above user, you can see a system. I cannot draw my cursor over here. Basically, this is the system that I am talking about. Okay? Let me just show you. This is the system I'm talking about. Okay, so let's make a new class system. So in this system, what all things are going to be there? Again, obviously, it needs to have first once, then I am going to need the user itself inside this, right? User.hpp. Now in my system, what all things do I need? I need to first let's make the class. In the class, I had said that there will be an unordered map of basically for every ID. So basically every string, what is the user? And I'm going to call it users. So there is no unordered map. So I'm going to inherit it. I'm going to call it include and unordered map. Okay. Now, guys, so system, I'm going to make it static. Why am I going to make it static? So basically, I don't want to create an instance of system. I'm going to be accessing only users. Sometimes, if you have watched my design pattern series, you should be very comfortable with static by now. If you are not, I highly suggest you to watch it after this. So what are we basically doing when we are going to get the functions of this class? You will notice that I'm not going to create any instances of the system, and when we actually do that, we will be able to notice how I have done that. So instead of creating instances, I will be able to access the functions directly by the class. So the functions will belong to the class and not to the instance of the class. You will understand that if you don't understand it for now. Sorry about that. Okay, so what are the functions that we need to have? I'm going to make all the functions as static. First, obviously, add user. So in add user, we are going to pass the user ID, and I am going to pass the user that, you know what, store all the information. Okay, and after that, okay, return type is void. Now again, another function, get user. So this is going to return user star, and so get user, and I am going to pass what? I am going to pass user ID, and I am going to return this. Have you understood this much, guys? Why am I writing this accordingly? Right? So this is my HPP file. I'm going to implement these two in the CPP file. So let me do that. I am writing the system.cpp. So this is my HPP and this is my CPP. In this, I need to first implement these two functions. Let me just copy them over here. Okay. Uh, So you should actually practice writing code like this, because in a machine coding round, you are actually expected to write code. You might not be expected to write like different HPP, CPP files, but you will definitely be expected to write a compilable code that works. So for that, you obviously have to, get used to these things. Also, since this is a static member, I need to initialize it in the CPP. So in the CPP, I'm going to initialize it over here. So unordered map of this, and this is within the class what? It is within the class system. So users. So I need void add user, and again it belongs to system. So like that, I am writing the CPP file now, right? I don't think I will have the time to write CPP files for all the classes that we are going to be implementing, but this is how it should be, and I will try to write for as many classes as possible. This is how the code should look in a like a real in production level code. This is how it should be. That the definitions should be in CPP and all the declarations should be in HPP. So I don't think I'll be able to do that for all the classes, but to show you how actually in reality it works, this is how we are going to be adding. Okay, so in the add user, all I have to do is in the users, so there is one user ID, right? So I just have to add the user, right? And in this, let me just add the system. In the get user part, what are we going to do? We are going to say that just return in this users. Where is the user ID? Just return that. Okay, guys, I hope you are with me till now. Let me just zoom in a bit for you to be able to see properly. So what was the first class we made? Let's just quickly revise a bit. First class we made was the stock, because that is the smallest unit with all the information. Then we made the class order, which has the transaction type, order type, all the details. Then we understood that we'll also need a user to actually do all of this. So we right now we made like a basic user with just an ID. Then we made a system with all the users. Okay, then we have a common HPV file as well. Right now that we are done with all of this, I think we can get to the rightmost part, this part over here. So we are done writing, the small classes. Basically, this class we have written, this class we have written, this class we have written, this class we have written. So now let's actually write the exchange connector part, which is going to be talking to the exchange. Okay, so in order to do that, we had discussed that we are going to make our exchange connector as singleton. So we are going to be making a singleton class now. Okay, so I am making a new file and I am calling it exchange connector. Let me just create it quickly. So this is the exchange connector. Now, for those of you who don't know singleton, today you're going to see the entire code implementation. So after this, you should be able to understand properly. Okay, so what am I going to do? I am going to make a class exchange connector. Now, in this class, first thing that I want is that, no one should be able to create more instances of this. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make the constructor as private. So no one is going to be able to call this. So whoever wants the instance of this class, what they will have to do, they will have to call the another function that we are going to write over here. So it's going to return this. So what are we going to call the function? We are going to call it like get exchange connector instance. Okay, so this is how they can get the instance, but they will have to call this particular class. Now, since we are making this singleton and we want only one instance, okay, so we want to deal with only one instance, we are going to make a static instance over here. So exchange connector, and I am going to call it exchange connector instance. Okay, so this is the instance that we are going to return, and we are going to implement this in the CPP file. So let's do that first to understand that, okay, how things are working. Okay, let us get to the CPP file. Let me just quickly create the CPP file. So this is the CPP file, and I obviously need to include the HPP file and, oh, sorry. Okay, so from this, I need to implement get exchange connector. So first, this is a static instance, right? So I need to initialize this outside. So in the CPP, so what am I going to do? I'm going to say this type, and for this class, uh, there is an instance, right? So there is an instance. So I'm going to just initialize it with that video. Okay, so I've initialized it. Now I need to write the function for I need to implement this, right? So I will return a pointer, and it is part of this class, and which function I am writing? I am writing this, right? So I need to make sure that in singleton, there is only one instance all the time. So this is the instance that I need to return. And I have made the constructors private. So I'm making sure that there's only one instance that will be created always. So this is the instance that should be returned from this function. So in the end, I will be returning this, right? But we have to make sure that that is the only instance that exists. So what am I going to do is, I'm going to create a new one only if it is null. So if this is null, what am I going to do? I am going to create a new one. So equal to new exchange connector. Okay, and if it is null, only then I'm going to create it. So if you have seen the singleton video, if you have seen it, you will know that this is not thread safe. What will happen is, suppose through I have actually taken two threads and shown over there that this is not thread safe. What will happen is that if two threads come to see this, and if they see that, okay, both are null, both are trying to create new, and then we will end up having two instances instead of having one. So what are we going to do is, we are going to have a lock over here. So don't worry, this is like very simple stuff only, very basic stuff. So first let me include the common file also, so that we have everything. Then I am going to include the mutex. I'm just going to put a lock to make it thread safe. That's all I'm doing. So there's nothing scary. Don't worry about it. Here I need a static mutex, and I'm going to just call it mutex, and I obviously need to initialize this also in the CPP. So I am going to call it what? So mutex in the class exchange connector and mutex. Okay, cool. So what am I going to do is, before doing this, I'm going to put a lock over here. If you have watched the singleton video, this should be very simple for you to understand. And I have had people who have told me that in an LLD interview, they actually implemented the entire singleton pattern, just how I'm implementing it. So this is not something that, you might think that it is not important. It is important. So you should know this. So I put a lock, and I have made sure that, always there's only one instance that is created. But again, the locks are not at all, the locks are very, very expensive, and every time putting a lock is just very unnecessary. So what am I going to do is, I'm going to put a check over here. So the only the first time when it is null, I am going to do this. So this is actually called double check locking. Again, you can watch the singleton video to understand this. So this is the implementation of singleton. We have done it. Okay, so this is called double check locking. If you have any doubts about this, you can refer to that video. But the rest of this video, the rest of this live session is not going to include this. Basically, all we have done is, we have made sure that there's only one instance of the exchange connector class. So you see this class over here, right over here, we have made sure that there's only one instance of it created, that is talking to the exchange. Okay. Awesome. We have understood this much. We have exchange connector ka HPP. We have exchange connector ka CPP. So these are the things that we have done till now. So now we are done with this. We are done with this, with this. All of these classes we are done with. Now let's focus on these three: order manager, validator, and executioner. Okay, so since order manager has these two as their members, basically order validator and order executioner. So let's first start with order validator and then with order executioner. So let's create the order validator file. I am doing that right now. Just give me 1 second. I have created order validator.hpp. So this is going to obviously need the order, so I have included order. Okay. Also, I need to add pragmats. I don't know why it is not getting added by itself. Till morning it was getting added by itself, but okay, it's fine. We can add this. Okay. Now in the order manager, if we see in the diagram itself, sorry, in the order validator, if we see in the diagram itself, all it needs to do is validate the order, right? So that is what we are going to do. We are going to write the order validator class, and in the public section, basically, if you see in the diagram, our order manager is calling this and it is calling this particular function, which is validate order. Okay, so I am going to say validate order, and I'm obviously going to pass user ID. So I'm going to say p user ID. I Do I need to return anything? I'm going to return a boolean, which is going to say is the order valid or not. So I'm going to pass the user ID, and I'm going to pass the order, which is going to have all the information. Okay. Now this is the CPP file, so that you get used to the HPP CPP thing. Let me just quickly create the order validator or CPP also. Plus you will also feel good that, we are doing it more in the production level code rather than just writing some nonsense. So we are going to include order validator.hpp. And now what am I going to do is in the order validator.cpp, I am going to implement this particular thing. So okay, let's go over here. Okay, so order validator, and inside this is the class. Okay, and okay. So usually, see in the order we have all the details. Let me show you how we have that all the details. Suppose I put a check that if order ka. So this is the time we write our getters and setters. So let's get into the order class and let's put a setter over here that get transaction type. So we are going to return the transaction type over here, and we are going to say get transaction type, and we are just going to return what. So this is supposed to be in CPP, guys, don't forget. But right now, to pace up the video, and I'm sure you are getting the point, right? So we are going to be returning the transaction type like this. Guys, are you with me? I need you to be very active in the comments. I need you to tell me that you're with me, you're understanding what I'm doing. Okay, I need to read the comments. So here I have added a getter that what is the transaction type. So in the validator, I can actually put a check like this that get transaction type, and if the transaction type is actually say by uh, so EXCH and by, so you can actually see it will come like this. Oh, not EXCH, sorry, transaction type. So I can see some comments. Great, understood. Thank you so much, guys, for the confirmation. So if it is by, let me just put an output statement. If it is by, I'm trying to buy, so I am checking if user has funds to buy. Okay, and I'm just going to put an ended. And otherwise, let's assume that it is sell. Okay, so I'm going to say checking if, so basically it has user also, right? Okay, also we need to in the validate order, see in the diagram, this is the order validator. It is going to give to the system to get the user's information, right? So let's do that part also. System, so I need the user's information, right? So user equal to, I need to include system because I need the information from the system, right? And user is already there in the system. So what am I going to do? I'm going to say system get user, and I'm going to pass the user ID. Okay, now is when you can actually start connecting the dots. You remember when we created this system class, I had told you that I am making it static. So what I did was I did not create any, if you notice, I did not create any instance of system. I just said get user because this is static, and I just passed the user, and I gave everything. Okay, so I have all the user information. Very good, Deepraj. So I have the user's information over here. Now I can actually check the funds and all using this user's information. I am not doing that obviously right now because we are not dealing with the funds part. But I am showing you that now we have the user's information. We could be doing that, and right now I'm just putting the outputs reasons. Checking if user has the stocks to sell, right? So if the user has the stocks to sell, we are going to return, right? Now I am assuming user has made valid order request and returning true. So what am I going to do over here is that I'm going to return true. So we can also check when we run the code, we will also check that if this return false, then our order should not go ahead. But since we are returning true, the job of the order validator is to check whether the order is valid or not. So since we are returning true, our order should happen. So we have also dealt with this order validator, system user, all of this is done. Now our order manager has actually have now order validator. Now we need to implement this part, order executioner, right? I hope you are able to follow from the diagram that what we are doing, why we are doing. Yes, great, awesome. So now what am I going to do is I'm going to create yet another HPP file and I'm going to call it order executioner. Okay, so in which case will return false. So Deepraj, say a user doesn't have enough funds. We have the user class over there, right? So we can check whether if the user doesn't have enough funds, we can return false that, okay, you can't buy or you can't sell. Okay, awesome. So order executioner.hpp, and obviously it also needs the order information, right? So order.hpp, again, let me add pragma once, okay. Now what am I going to do? I am going to create the class order executioner. And what am I going to do? In this, you can see from the diagram. I'm also seeing the diagram only. I'm not doing anything else. We have already known the diagram. And that is why in all the interviews, your interviewer is going to tell you that you should make the diagram first and then start implementing it. So you have an exact idea of what you're implementing. So in the diagram, if you can see, I have written that place order, right? So that is the exact thing that I will be doing over here. So in the public, I am doing what? I am saying place order. Okay, and I am not returning anything from here right now, and I am going to again pass the user ID, the user ID and the order. Okay, so I should be actually writing the function in say pp5, but right now to get it faster, I think I've got the hang of it. Let's do it over here. So over here, so if you see the executioner is connecting to what? It is connecting to Exchange connector. You can see over here, right? It is connecting to Exchange connector. So I need the instance of Exchange connector. So I am going to include Exchange connector.hpp, and I am going to also, let's just go to the Exchange connector once and copy this so that we don't have to write it again and again. So what am I going to do? I am going to have the Exchange connector with me, and I'm going to say that get instance. Again, see, I did not have to create an instance of Exchange connector. Why I did not have to do that? Because inside this, okay, I have to make it static. Inside this, I have implemented that it is going to return only one instance. So right this, I have made sure that I don't have to create an instance of Exchange connector, and I am able to do like this. So I hope now you have gotten the hang of static, right? And Singleton is making sure that we have only one instance of this, right? Great, awesome. So we have the Exchange connector, and the Exchange connector should have a place order to the exchange. So let's do that part also now. So in this, let me get into this. So inside this, there should be another function that send order to exchange, right? So basically we are sending the order to exchange, and again we are going to be sending the user ID and the order itself. So here I need to include the order. I hope you are able to connect that now we have the Exchange connector, but we also need to send the data from Exchange connector to Exchange, right? So that is what we are doing over here. So here I've written, but since we have written a CPP for this, let's do that also static, and it is not going. See, okay, in real life, when we are going to write this in production level code, what is going to happen is this is actually going to return us a code. Okay, it is going to tell whether the order was successful or not, and there's going to be a callback in this order executioner. So basically, when I'm going to call from over here, so if I am going to go that send order to this, and I'm going to pass user and order. So what is going to happen is that there should actually be a callback over here. And when I get the response, I'm going to do some stuff in the execution, like save the data in DB or update, all the class values and all of that. But we are not dealing with the coming back part that, what exchange is responding to, is sending the response to us. We are just doing the going part. Okay, you've understood this much. So in the exchange connector, let's just quickly write the code for this also. What is a order dot HPP? Sorry. Okay, so let's write the CPP of this. So here is the CPP. So in this, I am not returning anything. So in the exchange connector, I am writing this. Okay. So I am copying this and I'm pasting it over here, and this is gone. So basically I'm going to implement this, and over here I'm just writing an output statement. Order is sent to exchange, and we will be done if this actually happens, if our code works. So I'm going to wish ourselves congratulations. Do you think, guys, that our code is going to compile in once? It will be epic, if I have compilation errors live on YouTube and you guys will help me solve them. So let's see whether this gets compiled in once or not. I honestly don't trust myself enough. So let's see. Okay, so we are in the order execution now. We have said that, okay, when placing the order, do that. Finally, we are done with order validator. We are done with auto executioner. We have connected the dots from auto executioner to exchange connector to exchange. We are done with all of that. Now the main part, the order manager, to whom we are actually going to be sending the request, and we are going to be telling that manage our order and actually place the order. So the last main important class, just want to say kudos to everyone who is still here and who is still understanding. And I hope you are getting to learn a lot today. And also, I wanted to tell me in the comments that what are such more LLD systems that you would like me to cover, because I am planning to make a series of this. And do you think live is helpful or not? Okay, so let me just quickly make a class by that thing. So order manager is the class that we are going to be making. And okay, so pragma once, and in order manager, we know that we need order validator and order executioner. So I'm going to include both of them. So I'm going to say include order validator dot HPP and include order executioner dot HPP, and my class order manager. I'm going to start with this, and in this order manager, so these are like members of it, right? So order validator, I'm going to have a validator over here and an executioner, right? So order executioner, so I'm going to call it what? Executioner. Now what happens, so in the public section I'm going to add a new function, which is our main function actually, place order. The main thing is class diagram. Rest we can write code in our favorite language. Right, Tech Dummy, you are completely right. Okay, so in the place order, what we are going to do, we are going to pass that, okay, this user is creating this particular order. Okay, right now I am just writing this over here itself, again, not writing the CPP. So here, first, what am I going to do? I am going to validate. So only if my validator says, so in this validator, I'm finally going to call the function that, okay, if for this user ID and for this order, if my order is valid, only then I'm going to tell the executioner that go ahead and place the order. And for that, again, I'm going to pass the user ID and the order itself. Okay. It is awesome how you guys understand the importance of the class diagram now, because usually people just get to understanding the code part and they miss the importance of class diagram. But here I hope you can see that once we have the diagram, we can actually refer the entire diagram and convert it into code. It is very easy to write code once we have the diagram. And that is why I have put diagram over here so that you can keep seeing it. Okay. So over here in the I think we are done. Let's just write our main class now, and I am going to call it Zerodha.cpp. Okay, so in this I am going to include common, and my main is going to be here. Okay, and I'm just adding return 0. Okay, let's which stocks should I sell today or buy today, guys? Tell me in the comments which should be the first one that I should do. So Rajat is one of the guys who has been active since the starting, and I can see. So I'm going to create a new user called Rajat. Let me just include Rajat. So user.hpp. So I'm creating a new user, and I am going to call Rajat. So this is the ID. Right now our ID and name is same. Okay. Awesome. Now what we are going to do in our main, other than the user, okay. So what all do we need? So in our this we obviously need to create a stock. So I am going to create a stock. Guys, which stock should I create? Come on, tell me. I obviously need to include the order manager because that is the one to whom I'm going to be sending my first request. Now order manager obviously has a stock, so I don't have to take care of it, right? So I am going to create a new stock. Suppose I take the value of TCS and let's see how the constructor of this looks. So name and then price and then exchange. So price, let's say 1000 and let's say NSE. Okay. Okay. So in NSE, okay, you can see NSE is I'm getting this. So it is exchange and then from exchange you will be able to see that I've gotten the options. I'm adding NSE. Okay, so this is one stock that I've created. Now I obviously have to create an order. We will create multiple orders to make our code work. And this is the, the time when I'm most scared. Let's see whether the code works or not. So I'm going to create a new order. Okay, let's see how the constructor of the order looks. I hope you can see that I can see the constructor over here, right? So the transaction type, first of all, should we buy or sell, guys? What's it? Should we buy? Okay, let's buy. Okay, the next thing, order type. Let's let us keep the order type as limit. We are going to tell that at this price we want to do it. Then I am going to try to sell it at 1100. The quantity, okay. This is the price. The quantity is suppose 20 stocks, and I have the stock that I am dealing with and the exchange as well. So that is going to be NSE. So exchange, and you can see the values NSE. Okay, so this is the new order. I have the order. Now I obviously have an order manager. Okay, guys, do you remember I said when we were making the diagram that while making the order manager, order validator and order execution are made. You remember this composite relationship we talked about? That they can't exist without order manager. And did you notice in the okay, order manager, we have not added a constructor. None of you told me that we have not added a constructor. Guys, what is this? So inside this, I am going to make new order validator. Otherwise, how am I going to refer to these values if they are not there? You guys are not noticing properly. Very bad. So I am going to write new executioner. Okay, so this means that we are making a lot of mistakes and you guys are of no help not noticing it. So let us see whether this works or not. Okay, so in this, when I say new order manager, the new validator and new executioner is created. Okay, now in this order manager, what am I going to do? In this order manager, I'm going to say that place the order for this user, so I don't need to pass the user. I'm going to say for Rajat, and for this stock, just place the order. Oh, so for this order, just place the order. Now order has all the information, and this is the time. What say, guys? Is it going to build first? Let's see. Okay. Work. Come on. Okay. Errors. Oh, pragma one suspending. Nice. Transaction type, enum type redefinition, pragma once. Okay, let me just compile this again. Will it work? Will it work? Will it work? Will it work? Oh, compiled. Awesome. 𝐒𝐜𝐴𝐧𝐠 YouTube. Okay, I'm not sure if you can see the output. Let me just switch the screens because I think you can see only the code right now. Can you see the output? Yes, I guess you can. Awesome. So checking if the user has funds to buy because we made a buy order, then we assume that it is a valid request. The order is sent to a exchange. Congratulations. I am using Visual Studio, guys. Okay. So congratulations. We could actually create more orders and see. Okay, so the code is working. Now there are a bunch of things that I had thought of, different design patterns that I had thought of, and I had thought about orders, and I want to discuss that. We have a very running code and we have everything over here. But there are a bunch of very interesting things that I have thought of, guys. And please stay if possible. I'm going to revise also. And let me just show you the things. Let's do a quick recap. And after the recap, we will get to the other design patterns that I had thought of. Okay, let me just move the diagram over here and move myself over here so that you can see what I'm talking about. So these are the classes that we had. Okay. Now in this classes, you could see that, okay, so the smallest class was stock. Then after stock, there was order. Then there was common, then order manager had order validator and executioner. There was exchange connector, which was singleton. Okay, so this is all good. Now, what we'll be discussing is what different design patterns we could have used while creating orders and what are things I thought of. And I wanted to talk about the pros and the cons that are possible. Okay. Before that, just quickly once, I would really like to thank the sponsor of the video. And guys, please do check it out because it is completely free. The link is in the description. You just have to try the, scholarship test. It has only aptitude questions. There is no negative marking. There is a 2-day window. You can just try it out yourself. Okay. And the link is in the description. You can get 100% scholarship on any course by Coding Ninjas. And even if you don't get 100%, you could get good enough scholarship. Okay, let's get back to our diagram. Okay, okay, so here's our diagram, and I'm going to move aside. Okay, now here, when we talked about orders, there were a bunch of things we talked about: the transaction type, the order type, the exchange. Now, when I was thinking of the creation of order, I thought of a bunch of design patterns, honestly. What are the creational design patterns that we can think of? One is factory. Now we could be like creating a factory of objects over here, or abstract factory, which is a factory of factory. Or we could be using a builder pattern because we are actually building the object one by one. And we could also use strategy. So I gave it a lot of thought, honestly. But here's why I did not do any of that. Okay, I want to talk about all the pros and cons, and maybe I am wrong. That is why I needed to discuss. In factory, I tried writing the code and it seemed like an overfit and an overkill. Because when we use abstract factory, we create a factory of factories. Like the example that I have taken in while explaining the abstract factory, we had created like a Hyundai factory or a Toyota factory. Here, I can't create like a sell order factory and a buy sell and a buy order factory because it is just an overkill. The only difference over here is that we are just putting that value and sending that to exchange. We are not doing the buying and the selling. There is no like real different algo for this, right? Like over there, there's a different system for Toyota and different system for Hyundai. It just seemed like an overkill over here. Then next, builder. When do we use builder? When we are building the things one by one, when we have to like put in a lot of things. Like I had given an example of building a house when we had discussed in the builder strategy pattern. Like we are first building the almirah or the floor or the the terrace like that. Here it is not like we are first building that with this transaction type, with this order type. We are just setting the values. Now, strategies again seems like a good thing because we have to set the values, but it is not like the behavior is changing, right? The behavior is also not changing. We are over here just setting the values like NAC, BSc, or the transaction type or the order type. So, fitting in a design pattern just to fit it in seemed very overkill. Instead, I made sure that I followed all the solid principles. I made sure that each class has a single responsibility. It follows all the solid principles, and that is why I came up with this. If you have any feedback for the uh, system that we have designed, I am more than welcome. And if you want me to cover any more things, like here we could have covered things like uh, authentication, which is required for literally every system, or notification system, which uses another design pattern like observer pattern or something like that. So there are a bunch of things that can be put here. We have dealt with only one flow, that is placing the order. So I hope you have understood. I am going to quickly look at the comments before closing the live. So Deepraj is saying, can we use any tool for making the diagram? Yes, Deepraj, I actually was about to use a tool myself, like an online whiteboard, or tools like Lucid Chart and all are very famous to draw uh, class diagrams very very easily. Like there are a bunch of things, but it would just take a lot more time. So I wanted to keep it very fast, so I used iPad. But you could actually use Lucid Chart, and there are a bunch of things. You just Google that how to make a UML class diagram. You'll get a lot of free tools available, so you can use that. Rajat is asking, what if we are consuming APIs from multiple vendors and not from NSC and BSc directly? Then we just have to add it in the exchange itself, right? We have to make the we can, okay, in the exchange connector. When we were discussing exchange connector, I had said that I had thought of a bunch of questions and you did not think of that. Like we could have like a different exchange connector for NSC BSc. So tomorrow we want to deal with any other exchange also, we can just add over there. Or we could have like a pool of exchange connectors, like 50 exchange connectors, and we are going to do it with that, right? So there are like tweaks that we can do to this, but this seemed like a very straightforward solution. That is what we went ahead. Tech Dummy is asking, when we have a lot of constructors or there are many optional parameters in the constructor, yes, that is when we go ahead with builder. Right, you are correct. So it means a lot that you guys stayed up for almost 1.5 hours, and I hope it was worth it. A lot of effort has gone behind this. Trust me, guys. I want to do a bunch of these videos, but this needs to work out. It's a very different kind of video that I have done. And in order to support, I would highly, highly appreciate it if you could share it with your friends, if you could subscribe. You have no idea how much it would motivate me to create better and more content like this. Only if you motivate you to, proper educators, we can keep on creating like this. I want to create proper this content, which is really, really useful. So I will really appreciate it if you can share with your friends or subscribe, and I hope you are liking it, and I hope we continue the series. And so that people can keep sponsoring and I can keep creating, please do hit the the link in the description and check out Coding Ninjas. Thank you. Bye.